Welcome to a versus battle between the new 2022 Tundra and the 2022 Ram 1500. I'm going to keep this brief, but I'm going to be covering the exterior, the drive, the specs, the interior, and then we're going to do a conclusion at the end between which one you should buy, which trim levels, etc. The first category, exterior, that's pretty subjective. Put your thoughts in the comment section below which truck you like the looks of the most. I personally do like the way the new Ram 1500 looks. I think that's a very clean and elegant design. But the previous generation Tundra, that was the one that I really liked. That was probably my most favorite looking truck. It just had this certain indestructible vibe about it. This one, it's going to take some getting used to. I personally like the way the TRD Pro looks of this new Tundra, but this is a 1794. It's a crew cab with the 6.5 foot bed, and that bed size is not helping out here because it makes it look very awkward. But hey, they gave it to you as an option, an 8 foot bed, which only comes with the double cab, the 6.5 foot, and then the 5.5 foot is what I definitely recommend with the crew cab. I think it looks right, and also the resale value will be higher if you go with a crew cab 5.5 foot configuration with 4x4. Okay, so let's talk about something a little bit more important, like this drive and some of the specs here. The biggest difference between these two vehicles, well, it's the engines, right? You no longer have a V8 engine option with the new Tundra here. It's just this 3.5 liter twin turbocharged V6. Made it to a 10-speed automatic. And you also have the iForce Max, which I have not driven yet, but that's kind of the hybrid model with over 400 horses and over 500 pounds-feet of torque. I like the way this drivetrain reacts. I like how smooth it is. I like the way it sounds. Obviously, the engine sound that this truck produces, it is fake. It's just fake engine noise being pumped in through the speakers. But whatever it is, it sounds good in my opinion. And most importantly, the only thing I really request out of a twin turbocharged engine, especially a smaller displacement V6 like this, is for it to be smooth, and this is. And since we're currently doing 5 miles an hour below the speed limit, let's go ahead and let's talk about something else that's very important between these two trucks, because the Ram and this Tundra, they're predominantly purchased by people who are going to be daily driving them, using them as family vehicles. Comfort is a huge determining factor between these trucks, and I am not a fan of the way that this Tundra rides, primarily because we have the air suspension, the optional air suspension in the rear of this Tundra. Now, obviously, this has a newly revised chassis. It's a new platform, and they ditched the leaf springs for the multi-link rear suspension, and that's all fantastic. It's the exact same changes as the Ram 1500 when that was brand new for the 2019 model year. But the air suspension is what's ruining this particular truck. It just does not ride right. It's so jarring in the rear end. In fact, this truck feels like a live rear axle or a leaf spring setup. That's what this feels like. There you go. That's a little taste of that engine right there. It's so quick. This is easily quicker than the Ram 1500 in the real world. But again, once we jump into that, I'll talk about the changes there with that 5.7 liter Hemi. The suspension of this needs work. It needs to be retweaked. I personally think this truck has potential. This can ride great if you buy it in the right spec. And what is that spec that I personally recommend? It's the SR5 with the TRD off-road package with the 18-inch wheels. Ditch the air suspension. Ditch the air suspension in both trucks, the Ram and this. I don't recommend getting that in any pickup truck. I don't think it's worth it. See, like right there, that bump I just went over, really jarring, really unsettles the rear end. Totally not appropriate and not what I expected. The 1794 can come with the TRD off-road package. Instead, this test vehicle came with the air ride instead, the adaptive variable rear suspension. But this handles identical to the Ram 1500. It's got that same kind of handling demeanor to it. It's very predictable, very confidence inspiring. Neither of these trucks handle quite as well as the Ford F-150. That's just easily the best handling truck out there because that's got a full all aluminum body. But that's okay. I don't need a truck to handle quite that well. I just like the fact that this is a huge improvement over the previous generation Tundra. This doesn't feel like it's going to flip over onto itself when you take a left-hand turn, a right-hand turn. the occupants aren't being thrown all around in the cabin space. That was my biggest complaint with the previous generation Tundra, and that's been addressed here. This is far more of a smoother handling demeanor, similar to the Ram 1500. The steering of this is also predictable and direct. The previous generation, they improved the steering feel over the years, but this is definitely the best. This is far more direct and feels more like the American trucks now in terms of its steering feel. I can't really choose between which transmission is the best. I think they're both equally excellent. The 8-speed in the Ram and this 10-speed, I think it's really well done. In terms of quietness, I definitely think the Ram is quieter than this truck here. The Ram and the F-150 both utilize double pane glass, and it shows in the wind noise. Both of those trucks, the F-150 and the Ram, produce far less wind noise than this new Tundra. They reserve the double pane glass for the capstone model, which I think is absolutely absurd. This is a $66,000 truck the way it sits here, and the Ram that I'm going to be testing this against is about $62,000. Tire noise and everything else is about the same. This one does utilize Yokohama tires, this Tundra, and I'm not a fan of that. There's hardly any grip with it, and these are 265 wide tires that the 1794 Tundra has. They should have at least put 275s on here easily. And yes, both of these trucks do ride on 20-inch wheels. And with that established, I think let's go ahead and let's hop inside of the Ram 1500, take that for a drive. All right, so we have stepped inside of the Ram 1500 Laramie. And the first thing I want to talk about is the engine. It's actually a pretty interesting conversation because this one has the 5.7 liter Hemi V8 with the e-torque. And on paper, at least, the MPGs are pretty much identical. Actually, I think this does one MPG better on the highway than the Tundra. Now, are any of those numbers accurate? Kind of. Both of these trucks will do 18 MPG if you really baby it. Those are real world numbers, but you have to be driving like somebody's grandmother to achieve those figures. As soon as you floor it in either truck, they're both going to do around 14, 15 MPG. As soon as you touch that gas pedal, like I'm doing right now. Highway MPGs are going to be the same across the board for any truck. They're all going to do around 20 to 23 MPG because the drag coefficient, these are just big old bricks. They're not super aerodynamic, and they weigh a lot. So don't expect much out of highway MPGs. That's about all you're going to be getting, somewhere in the 20s. Low 20s, that is. But fine, okay, so which engine do I like more? Honestly, I genuinely mean this. I like both engines equally. I do like the new Tundra V6. That's a good motor, and technically it is faster off the line because of the instantaneous turbo thrust that it offers. This engine produces 395 horsepower and 410 pounds-feet of torque. The Tundra is 389 horsepower and 479 pounds-feet of torque. So torque-wise, the Tundra produces like 70 pounds-feet of torque more, but they're both pretty quick. I mean, it's not bad. You're not going to be dissatisfied with any of them. I do think that the 5.7 Hemi is probably the smoothest engine found in any truck. It's got a very silky tone to it, but one thing I do like about this 5.7 Hemi versus the Tundra is the fact that there's no lag with it because there's no turbos. There's less complexity here. And the e-torque system, does that add to the fuel economy? I mean, I guess maybe like 1 MPG or something, because it mainly makes the auto stop starts smooth in the Ram, and it also saves some fuel downshifting. The transmission performance is going to be a little bit smoother with the e-torque because it utilizes the electric power to downshift versus feeding it with fuel to rev match. But none of these regular V8s like this 5.7 Hemi, it has a smooth tone to it, but it's not like some firecracker, nutcracker of an engine. Okay, it's not like a Mustang GT engine. It's not like the TRX. There's not a crazy exhaust fitted to it. But that changes for 2022 if you get the Laramie or the Bighorn that has the catback exhaust system. This is what I was saying in my full Tundra review. The 5.7 liter iForce Tundra, which was the TRD Pro, found in the TRD Pro, that one had a catback exhaust, so it sounded amazing. But If you're going to be having an engine like this, which is extremely muffled, because from the factory all of these trucks are muffled, going with the twin turbo V6 isn't a huge detriment. You know, you're not like missing out on a whole lot, especially since they made the V6 sound cool. The biggest advantage here for the Ram is going to be the ride quality. It is just so sublime. It is so smooth. This particular truck is fitted with the 20-inch wheels on it, same as the Tundra, but the difference is the Ram also utilized a multi-link rear suspension, but this truck properly makes use of it. It's so smooth. It isolates out everything. Both of these trucks have similar mileage on it. This one has 2,500 miles on it, and the Tundra has about 2,600 miles. But an interesting thing that we noted with the Ram is once this truck crossed about 2,000 miles, this truck started to ride a little bit softer. So it's almost like the shocks actually got broken in. And another thing to note, this one does not have the air suspension on it. And I don't think it's necessary with the Ram. Obviously, you might want the air suspension if you go with like a Limited with the 22-inch wheels. Those wheels are just so big. If you go with a model with 18 or 20-inch wheels like you see here, air suspension totally not needed. Skip the complexity, skip the headaches. If that air suspension starts to bleed, it's just annoying to deal with that. I would just save the money and I would either get a fully loaded Bighorn or I would get a lightly spec'd Laramie. That's kind of what I would do, but something you have to keep in mind for 2022, they raised the prices across the board about $4,000 for each trim level, so that kind of sucks. This particular truck stickers for $62,000. A 2021 equivalent model year to this would have only cost $58,000. Like I already mentioned in the Tundra review, they both pretty much handle about the same. I just feel like there's an extra level of smoothness to this Ram. That might be because this has a slightly smaller footprint. This is far less of an annoying driving experience. It's far more manageable because it has like the 5.5 foot bed or the 5'7" bed versus the 6.5 foot bed found in the CrewCab Tundra that I just tested. Now you can also get that longer bed with the CrewCab with the Rams as well if you want. I just think the trucks look better with the shorter bed, but it's far easier to drive as well. And I already stated this in the interior segment of the Tundra, but this is a far better seating position as well. The mirrors are normal. You can actually kind of see around it. It's just less blind spots, far easier to drive, far more enjoyable. So yes, driving wise, I would give the points to the Ram. However, like I already mentioned, I don't think Toyota is stupid. I think if you get the right trim level, TRD off-road package, 18-inch wheels, that truck could rival this driving experience because the 2021, the previous generation Tundra, does rival this in terms of ride quality and refinement. It's just the chassis control on the previous generation Tundra felt all wallowy and it felt like you were going to tip it over or something every time you made a slight left-hand or right-hand turn, whereas these newer trucks, this new Ram, the new Tundra, they all remain neutral, planted, and steady. So I do like that. And yes, this is a quieter truck than the new Tundra as well. Utilizes double pane glass too. I think the F-150 is a tad bit quieter than this, but they're both very close. And we have much better Bridgestone stickier tires on here as well. So that helps out. Now let's go ahead and let's talk about that Tundra interior next. Okay, let's compare and contrast the interiors real quick. I'm sitting inside of the Tundra right now. Personally, I think I would give the points to the Tundra here. I do think that this is a better interior space than pretty much every other truck in its class. I don't necessarily think it's the best put together, which is surprising because the previous generation Tundra, even though it was a predominantly plastic interior space, at least it was solid. It was like a brick in there, right? And I had no real complaints with the previous generation Tundra. Like I already mentioned, the only complaint that I did have with the previous Tundra was the handling, the chassis, if you will. They could have stiffened that up, which is what they've done here for this new generation. But everything else about the previous Tundra was great. Here, what they've done is they've brought this to the modern era. This is now class leading in terms of the technology, well, at least with the infotainment anyway, and just the overall look. It just has this great character to it. Now I get it, this is a 1794 edition, but you know, even the regular Tundras, the other SR5s, the TRDs, the TRD Pros, whatever, those are all equally great in my opinion. Like if you got the limited trims in a well-loaded spec, I think you'll be really happy with that as well. It's the layout that I appreciate here and the different material choices, the stitching, the way they've broken everything up, the wood. Now, I will say the materials themselves though, okay, the quality of that material, it kind of does creak and rattle a little bit more. It kind of moves around when you kind of touch on them. That's a bit annoying. And this kind of white trim piece right here, which looks like it's leather padded, it's just a piece of plastic. So things like that, it gives you the impression of quality when you look at it, but once you really start touching around, that's when you notice some of the chintziness, like with this center armrest here, kind of feels weak, but you know, it's not a big deal and it's not a deal breaker. I still maintain that I like this interior space a little bit more than the Ram. This 14-inch display has a lot to do with it. I personally think this is the best infotainment fitted to just about any car possible. This is so well done. It's so quick to respond. It's never glitched up on me. It's never done anything weird. It's simple. All the primary commands are on the left side of the screen, so it's easy to access, easy to use. It doesn't feel distracting. There's no learning curve with it. It's got the wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. That being said, so does the 8-inch screen. That's the base screen that you're going to be getting, and I think that's also more than enough. But this is super desirable. This looks fantastic, especially when you have the navigation going or when you have Apple CarPlay going. It's just amazing. And despite them putting in so many features, there's no learning curve. It's simple, it's ergonomic, and there's still plenty of physical buttons down here, toggle switches that you can play with, heated and cooled seats. The center gauge cluster, even though it's completely digital, looks fantastic. And just like with the primary display, this gauge cluster is also very easy to use via the controls on the steering wheel, so that's fantastic. And I do like the leather work on the steering wheel and the seats. They're extremely comfortable. That being said, the Ram seats are also comfortable, as we're about to see when we jump inside of that. Storage is equally great in just about all these trucks. F-150 obviously has a big swinging table to put like a laptop in there, so you have that going on. You have a pano roof here, which actually takes away from the space inside of this truck, especially headroom wise for passengers in the rear, so keep that in mind. I would actually skip the pano roof in the Tundra. Otherwise, legroom is fine back there. It's a full-size truck after all, CrewCab, but I feel like the previous generation Tundra actually had more space back there, something to note. And compared to the Ram, I feel like the Ram probably has a bit more space in there compared to this new Tundra. And the bed size is the bed size, you know, you just select what you need. But you do have a power socket back there as well in the new Tundra, and it's like this aluminum reinforced composite material that they use for the Tundra bed, similar to the Tacoma, so you don't need to get a bed liner. It just comes well protected and durable from the factory. Now, another thing I forgot to mention, this is a big con with this truck. It's the seating position. The seating position is total trash in the new Tundra. These tow mirrors that everybody likes to rant and rave about really gets in your way. Swallows up cars, buses, and trucks. It's a massive blind spot. So is this A-pillar. Like, the way everything is set up in here, it's just not that comfortable for me, and I've tried several different seating positions. Put the seat all the way up, put it all the way down, put the recline up. I still am constantly looking over these side view mirrors here, so that's a bit of a disaster. Not a big fan of that. The previous generation Tundra was much easier to drive. Same thing with the Ram 1500. But another place where this truck beats out just about every other is the JBL sound system, the 12 speaker. This is the best sounding audio system found in any pickup truck, hands down. This is so good. I feel like this would be even superior to the 19 speaker in the Ram, the Harman Kardon anyway. This is just such a fantastic sound quality. The bass is there, the clarity is there, and I do also love the camera systems in here, the 360 cameras, the clarity, the ease of use, fantastic. All right, let's go ahead and let's jump inside of the Ram interior, and then let's end this review off. Okay, so we're back in the Ram, and let's talk about the interior of the Ram 1500, and let's quickly go into the conclusions afterwards. Okay, this interior space, surprisingly, this is the tighter cabins, which is shocking because Toyotas typically have the best fit and finish, and here I am complaining about the fit and finish of the new Tundra, so that's pretty crazy. This Ram is just a more polished experience, but I just don't think it's quite as fancy to sit in like the new Tundra. Now, I get it, that's a 1794, it's like that, you know, interesting cowboy spec with the white interior. I realize that, but I've been in the Limiteds and it utilizes slightly better wood trimmings, and yeah, it's an upgrade from this, but it's still no match for just how unique and interesting the new Tundra interior looks. You don't have to get the 1794 to still get an amazing interior space. in the new Tundra. And the Rams do come with a 12-inch screen, but the 12-inch screen in the Ram is actually just a waste. All they've done in the 12-inch screen is basically take all the physical HVAC controls and then implement it into the bottom of the 12-inch screen. It really makes no practical sense, and it's a vertical display. I just think the infotainment in the new Tundra is far superior, but many people do like this Uconnect screen, and it's good. It's still easy to use, don't get me wrong, but it does glitch up on me occasionally, especially when you have Apple CarPlay running. I once had Apple CarPlay going and I put the vehicle into reverse, and the reverse camera, the backup camera, wouldn't turn on. And also I prefer this 8.4-inch screen over the 12-inch screen in the Ram because I like the physical controls that they have here for the HVAC, for the heated and cooled seats, the heated steering wheel, etc. It's pretty much all the same features that you find in the new Tundra. But obviously the infotainment that they use is far cleaner, sleeker, and nicer in my opinion. I do like the gauge cluster situation here. It's not completely digital, nor do I care. I like the physical gauges that they use mixed in with the digital screen in the middle there. It's logically laid out, also very easy to use, similar to the Toyota. I mean, ease of use with both trucks is pretty excellent. That's not really a problem. I personally like this gear selecting knob better than the actual physical gear lever found in the Tundra. We have automatic headlights here. We have the automatic one-touch windows for just the front two windows here, not the rears. Something to note there. The seats, the leather seats in the Ram are also excellent. They're also very comfortable. The Toyota seats and these Ram seats, I feel like they're equal. Actually, I'll probably give the points to the Ram seats because it feels like it's more of a real leather interior. Sound system is nowhere near as good. The 9-speaker or the 19-speaker Harman Kardon, I don't think it competes with the new Tundra 12-speaker JBL. I think that's the best audio system in a truck. But practicality-wise, I like how the Ram gives you 2 glove boxes, kind of. The previous Tundra had 2 glove boxes, but the new Tundra doesn't. Something to keep in mind there. But they're both very opulent, plenty of space, plenty of storage and cubbies and all that good stuff. So that shouldn't be a problem in any truck, just something to note. Also, the center armrest in the Ram is of far higher quality. Again, everything just feels better put together in the Ram. And again, that's shocking for me to say about a Stellantis product. I think the rear legroom is a little bit greater, and also the headroom as well, especially since there's no pano roof in this particular Laramie. Again, the bed size is just, it is what it is. If you want a more fancy bed, get the F-150 because it has rulers, it has sticks and rods and steps to get in and out of, power sockets, power outlets. You can clamp on wood to saw things with. I mean, it's pretty crazy. The Ford is easily the best for work purposes. The Ram and the Tundra is more for luxury car purposes. Towing figures, I'll put all the towing figures here on the screen so you can compare and contrast because it changes between the trim levels, but all the half-ton trucks pull almost the same. But one thing to note, this is a naturally aspirated 5.7 liter V8 versus the twin turbocharged V6 Tundra. There's probably going to be some more cooling issues with the Tundra because it is a turbo engine. Although cooling is what they've really worked on with the Tundra because they know it's going to be more for a heavy duty use compared to like a Lexus LS 500, right? So they did work on it, but I do think that this is probably going to, not overheat as much. That's testing that owners would have to do. But for the most part, I would probably still give the points to the Tundra for the exceptional infotainment screen and just how unique it looks. But solidity wise, surprisingly, the Ram takes it. Now, let's do a quick conclusion here. Which truck would I choose? As of right now, because I haven't tried an SR5 18-inch wheel TRD off-road package Tundra, I would go with the Ram currently. But I still think that Tundra is a world-class product. I think there's so much good there. It just requires some slight tweaks and tunings to make it better. So perhaps the 2023 model year of the Tundra is going to be absolutely excellent. That's another thing. This Ram has been out for about 3 years now. The 2019 model year, that was the first model year for this generation of the Rams, whereas we're comparing it to an all-new Tundra. It just came out. Here's the thing with the the new truck segment, you can't really go wrong with any of these trucks. They're all so good. It's nothing like what trucks were 20 years ago, right? Or even 15 years ago. These trucks have come a long way. They're luxury products now. They're not just, for work use or for landscape use only. No, these are being used by families, millionaires. The F-150 is a millionaire's most favorite vehicle, apparently. That's what they use most commonly. You know why? Primarily because these trucks have such great resale value. And I didn't even talk about reliability because that's the thing. The resale value is so great on a pickup truck that you can just trade it in if it's causing you issues. Just dump it at CarMax and pick up something else that's brand new. You might have to wait a little bit. You might have to play the market. Shortages, chip shortages, I get it. But we were able to snag this Ram for 12% off MSRP because we went through LeaseCompanion. It's a company that I'm affiliated with, so if you want to save money on a new vehicle, you can use my little link in the description box. But yeah, we played the game right. We got ourselves into a new vehicle, and we can actually sell this for a profit too if we wanted to. That's how crazy the truck market is. That's the level of demand these trucks have, and I feel like Toyota will also continue having pretty excellent resale value as well. And if you get the proper models like I recommend, like $53,000 SR5s and $58,000 Limiteds, you're paying less for the vehicle, so that's less depreciation as well. The Tundra is probably better value if you go that route and you get a lower trim level like that compared to the Ram or even the F-150. So if price is an issue, go with the Tundra and make sure you're not paying over MSRP for it. Make sure you're waiting, you're doing your research, and you get at a good price. Because then the Tundra can really make sense. So I'm not saying avoid the Tundra. In fact, get it if you can get it at MSRP with the spec that I just described to you there. That's my recommendation, and that's my look at the two trucks. I think they're both great. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I'm going to leave the full reviews to both of these trucks in the end screen here, so check them both out, and I'll see you there.